What's going on, everyone? Hopefully you're having fun with Nightreign and you're here because you want to see how to beat the night aspect. Now, I've got a video that is super cool. I'm playing the Recluse, and there's a couple things you want to know about the night aspect. First thing is that he has two phases. Now, the first phase is pretty simple, but it could potentially be a little bit tricky if you're not that good, especially if you're not good at dodging and stuff like that. However, that being said, there are certain weaknesses to phase 1 that are different from phase 2. So what I'm going to do is put up on the screen both of the weaknesses for both phase 1 and phase 2. The thing you want to notice here is that in phase 1, he's really weak to holy, and he's also weak to fire. But what is more important is that in phase 2, he's no longer weak to fire, but he's weak to holy and to lightning. Matter of fact, the amount of extra damage is the same at 20% for holy and lightning. The other thing to notice is that he's also weak to piercing, especially in phase 2. So that is probably why, if you're having a little bit of trouble, I would highly recommend you get into a lobby of 2, maybe even 3 Iron Eyes, because the arrows do piercing damage. In addition, Iron Eye's ultimate could potentially even stagger him out of some of his attack phases, which is really fantastic because he has some really bad attack phases that will melt your characters especially if they're bundled up or close together. I should also mention that Raider's charged up character skill, his ult, Wilder's ult, as well as other characters' ultimates could also knock this boss out of his very dangerous attack phases. The other thing to note is that as the fight goes on in phase 2, he uses increasingly more AoE attacks and attacks that will damage the entire environment. So when that happens, it's really a DPS check, I would say, against this boss. If you're really not doing enough damage per second, then you're probably not going to win the fight unless you're god tier at dodging and mitigating damage. You might be noticing that in this clip here in the second phase, my Recluse is using magic and fire attacks, even though I've already previously stated that it's not weak to these, and that's because I'm trying to build up specific combinations. Some of the combinations are clearly worth it, while others are just better to not. You can see with my lightning attacks that they do an absurd amount of damage. I do have the relics set for a Dragon Cult incantation improvement as well as lightning attack improvements, so that definitely adds to the damage that's being dealt here. Something to note is that when using the holy and lightning combination, it creates a forward shield that a lot of times will stagger enemies when they attack you. Against this boss, it actually doesn't work. It will just basically make you a little bit invulnerable to the attacks. It won't stagger him, unfortunately. Now you can see what I'm talking about with regard to the environmental attacks. And they can be pretty bad, especially if you get the one for madness, because the madness buildup will obviously kill you if you take too much madness. And for those of you who have fought against the night aspect, you know that as soon as someone goes down, it could potentially spell disaster, because it creates a domino-like effect as rezzing someone puts the whole entire team in a precarious situation. No longer can the team put damage on the enemy as hard because you're down and the other person's trying to res you, so it really is bad, which is why I highly recommend that you learn the boss's movesets. They're really not that hard to learn. He usually does a really telegraphed wind up before he attacks. Sometimes he might not look at you when he attacks, which is kind of the unsettling thing, but otherwise it's not too terrible. Word to the wise, as you can see on the screen, even though my character has done the combination to mitigate all FP consumption, it could be a good idea to not use Dragon Communion attacks against him, even though I do have an improved Dragon Communion relic active. However, if you do go down, or if a party member goes down and you have an Iron Eye in the party, they can more easily and more safely res them from a distance, so they don't necessarily get caught in an AoE that affects everyone. Last thing I want to mention is some of his resistances. Now, on the screen you'll see that he's immune to poison, he's immune to bleed, he's immune to frost, so don't start a relic loadout with any of those things as a bonus, because you are not going to be able to get any of those things. So that's pretty much all I got. Hopefully you like the ending. Hopefully you like the video. Thanks for watching. Stay cool, and bye everyone.